Hello, I'm Mary Murphy, Superintendent of the Marlborough Public Schools, and welcome to the Superintendent's Corner, Episode 7. And today we are going to be talking about the kindergarten registration process. With me is Dr. Skazer.
Hello, everybody.
Assistant Superintendent of Teaching and Learning. Jody O'Brien, Assistant Superintendent of Student Services and Educational Equity.
Thank you.
And returning with us today is Kane School Principal Calliope Pantazopoulos, former kindergarten teacher of the Marlborough Public Schools, and as we were just teasing her, the veteran senior principal at the elementary level.
Not senior.
Most experienced. So welcome. Before we start, we just want everyone to know we want to help the community know when it's time to register for kindergarten, because the sooner that you complete that process, the more invitations you will receive before the fall. And so if you have a child, if you live in Marlborough and you have a child that will be 5 before September 1st, that's a firm date. There's no waiving that date. So up till August 31st, if you have an August 31st birthday, please register. Then you'll be ready for kindergarten. So that's the rules. And this year, with like a lot of other things we're doing, we're trying to improve the process that we have implemented for kindergarten registration. And we do that with a number of different structures and routines we have in place, because we want the experience to be as seamless and as inviting and welcoming to all of our new families. Jody, you've been overseeing a lot of those changes. Could you share some of those things?
Sure. So previously, kindergarten registration was done at one of the 4 elementary schools by a Marlborough Public employee. And it would be done after hours, after the school day. And so we evaluated that and determined that we really wanted to pull that into the registration and parent outreach center so that parents would have the availability of having staff that's available during the school day to be able to answer any of their questions or assist them with registration and oversee that process. So there's only one place that you have to go to register your children.
So if a family is moving into Marlborough and is new to the system, and they have children in multiple different grade levels, they only have to go to one place,
Yes.
the same place?
Yes, correct. And so bring all of their documents to the same place. So we'll be doing that, but in addition to that, we will also be doing, we already had one night, but we'll be doing some evening registration events where parents can come in. We'll have devices available, interpreters that are available in case anybody needs assistance in doing the registration. So there's 2 parts to the registration. There is the online portion where they'll go through and enter in all of their addresses, their information, their children's information as well. And then the second part of that is to bring in their documents as far as proof of residency, birth certificate, health and physical information.
Do they have to physically come to some place? Or are there other options for providing that documentation?
So certainly they can either drop off copies of those documents to the registration center or bring it to one of our evening events. But in addition to that, they also have the opportunity to be able to scan and upload those and email them as an attachment to the email that's listed on the website. There's a registration page, and there's also one there's a specific registration page for kindergarten, which has a whole ton of information.
And I know that a lot of families these days use their phones to scan documents. What's most important is we're able to read all the information on that. Yeah.
I was at that first event, and I thought it went really well. I was wondering what you guys thought about the attendance at that event.
Yeah, I thought it went really well. We had some parents who had already done the online piece of it, and had just came in and brought in copies of their documents, and then we had some parents who hadn't done any part of the registration yet, so they did both parts that night. The registration center went through the documents, and if a parent was missing something from the documents, then they would list that off for them to be able to either scan and upload and email directly, or to bring in at a different time. As they completed their the registration process, we have those kindergarten kits. Was it kindergarten in training? Kindergartner in training. So there's some materials that parents can bring home for their child to be able to do during the spring and summer in order to prepare for kindergarten in the fall.
Just a moment about those kits, because the principals will send letters home reminding parents that they don't have to complete every activity. It's meant to
Just
be
for like fun.
fun.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
How did you think the evening went?
I thought it went really well. I loved seeing the incoming kindergarten students, the ones that were coming to Kane. They got to meet all of the elementary principals that they will be having. We were all in attendance. And I loved how some of the siblings of the students that we currently have were there, and they were able to introduce us to their incoming sibling. So it was a great event. I loved that format of it.
Yeah. And I was going to highlight that all of the elementary principals and the director of the Early Childhood Center were present. We had administrative assistants from all of the schools present as well, interpretation services. So it was just really well organized, and I thought it afforded a great opportunity for parents to come in and get their son or daughter registered.
Yep. And that, speaking of the director of ECC, that reminds me that there is a little bit of a different process for registering your child for kindergarten if your child already attends the Marlborough Public Schools Early Childhood Center, because those students are already in our student information system. So we already have the parents' information, the address, the child's date of birth. So those students, the Early Childhood Center will be reaching out to those families and just asking them for any missing documents or to update their information in preparation for kindergarten.
Often there's the medical requirements change. As a child enters kindergarten, they need a recent physical or something like that. So that is the most common reach out?
Yes, so their school nurse, Haley Lopez, she will be reviewing those documents, everything that they have, and will be reaching out to parents to let them know what they need to do. And some of it might not be things that parents could do now. Yeah. For instance, they might not have a physical that's due through their health insurance due until July or August, so that's not something that they would be able to provide the Early Childhood Center now. But Haley will, Nurse Lopez will be able to provide that information to the parent to say, hey, just a heads up that your child has to have that physical in July, and then be able to bring in that documentation, updated information to the registration center.
So, did you have?
I was just wondering, I know we don't have a firm date yet, but we have at least a window of time when we're looking to hold another one of these events?
Yes, so we are looking for the first 2 weeks of April to be able to hold at least one more additional event. And the reason is that there are some events that are coming up that Calliope will be talking about that we want to make sure that parents have the information. So one way that parents will get that information is if they're registered and we have their email, then we'll be able to provide information on upcoming events that we have this spring.
And we want to talk about that in a second, but for example, it's generally by April vacation, we have about 200 of the 400 incoming kindergarten students registered. And so we want to make sure as close to all 400 are invited to everything. It would benefit both the students and the parents as well, especially if you're a first-time kindergarten parent. There's a lot of things that are a little scary, but can be exciting. If you have all the information and you feel welcome and you know the facility and the leaders and the teachers, it just makes you realize how much we are so happy that you're joining us.
Yep, the sooner the better. And I think for the events that are coming up this spring, you don't have to have, a family doesn't have all of their documents in yet for kindergarten. The most important thing is the parent and contact information, their email, and
And
the
we can
child's
send out
information.
everything. Yep.
Yes, so do you want to share? Yes.
Our first event that we're going to be having is a Welcome to Kindergarten night. Each school has an assigned night, and it will take place from 6 to 7 o'clock at the school that your child will be attending. Jarwick's dates are Wednesday, May 3rd. Yeah. Goodnow's is Thursday, May 4th. Yeah. Richard's date is May 17th, and Kane's date is Thursday, May 18th.
So all families, and
yes.
So what if a family does not know what school will be like? Do they need to register before May 3rd or the 17th? They all should try to,
yes.
As soon, sometime by April.
Yes, and they will be informed of what school their child will be attending as soon as they register. And then they will get the information of the event that will take place. And our Welcome to Kindergarten night is super fun. We have Mr. Jerry that is coming. He is, I know RJ has had a chance to experience him as well.
Oh, yes.
He is a phenomenal performer. He does sing-along songs with the students and wants to get them moving. We always provide a snack and a little juice box for the students as well that they can have. Mr. Jerry performs for about a half an hour, and then we're able to give the parents a little bit of information about some of the upcoming events that will be happening, give them a little bit of an overview, introduce them to the administration, any of the teachers that have volunteered their time to come for that evening, and then we take them on a tour of our kindergarten wing, which is always the highlight. The kids love seeing the classrooms that they will possibly be in come the fall, and it's just great. We do always remind the students that it is a working classroom, so we try and make sure that they know that to keep their hands by their sides and they can look with their eyes.
But there's some toys
tempting.
there.
Toys are very tempting, but it's always been very very respected. So the incoming students always leave the classroom ready for their kids, for the current kindergarten kids to get back to work the next morning. But it's great because they get to see what is in the classrooms. They get to see pictures of what's going on in the classrooms and photos of the teachers and see where their rooms will be. So it's very exciting.
That's a great first
awesome.
opportunity for them to be able to see their brand new
Yes.
school that they'll be able to go to, that they will be going to in the fall. So,
Yeah.
is there any other times that they would be able
Yes,
to
stop
by?
They can stop by anytime during the summer as well. Administration's there. We have front office support. Our school's all are a little topsy-turvy over the summer because of the cleaning that happens during the summer. But our doors are always open to the families. So if they have anybody that's a little anxious, they're more than welcome to have them call us, and we'll set up an appointment for them to come see the school.
Can I just jump into,
Yes.
for the community to know that Jarwick School is most likely going to be having some construction work done over the summer. So if there are families that need some extra time in the school before the school year starts, in June would be a good time, or maybe late August. And probably the best way to make those arrangements would be to email the principal, Mrs. Patel, personally.
Awesome. But we do have other events, though, for them as well. There's a kindergarten screening that takes place August 30th and 31st. So that's at the very, very end of summer, at the very beginning of our school year. And it takes place at our attending elementary school. So if RJ's daughter was to come to Kane, she would come to the screening at Kane.
And if I had her registered, then I would get the information of where my screening
Yes.
appointment was to be and when.
Yes, yep, and the kindergarten screening is an individual assessment on all the students, and it measures their academics, their physical and social and emotional skills, and then that way we're able to provide them the most supportive learning environment based on that.
Can I ask why we do kindergarten screening? I think that that's something that we did not talk about earlier, but
No. So we use, we assess all of the students with
The dial.
Dial 4, which will go through I'm not as familiar with it.
Speech, occupational therapy, so their physical movements. There's an academic piece on it. They get a hearing and a vision screening as well. And there is also an EL screening as well. If they speak another language, then we're able to ensure that they get the services that they require.
And I remember when my youngest had done the kindergarten screening, he's a lefty. And so I already knew, like, you know, when he's coloring and things, that he was going to be a lefty. But when he was going through the screening and they did all the other activities, I have to say, I don't think I ever gave him a pair of kid scissors, but he picked them up with his right hand. And so we learned that he was a righty for cutting with his scissors and a lefty for handwriting. And I would have never known that if we hadn't gone through and done that screening. That's definitely something useful for the teacher to know.
Yes, yep, it's very informative. It's a great process that we have. And after kindergarten screening, there's also a kindergarten orientation event that we have for the families, and that will be at the attending elementary schools as well, and that's when the kindergarten students get to ride the big yellow school bus with their families for the very first time, and they attend an orientation session at the school as well as the classrooms. So the school overview of it tends to be myself and my administrative team welcoming the families. We have a short, very, very short PowerPoint because the time is more beneficial for them in the classrooms. And then we go over our PowerPoint about attendance and letting them know what the next few days will entail, how we'll collect the students when they come into the school. And we introduce our kindergarten team. And that's when the families also get to meet their kindergarten teachers and know who they will be with. So
they will not know, families and students do not know who their kindergarten teacher as you're transitioning until the orientation day. That's not the first day of school, though.
No.
That's just designated as orientation.
Yes, correct. And it's just a great way that we have it, because then we're able to place the kids in the best supportive learning environments that we have for them based on the screening results.
Okay, so when my
Yes.
child goes through the screening, they haven't been assigned a classroom yet. So you do that.
Yes.
After you screen all of the kindergartners, then you as the principal go and put them into the classroom.
Yes.
You said as a balanced.
Yes, we want a balanced classroom. We balance all of our classrooms so that there are equal representation.
Variety of learners in
Yes.
every classroom,
Yes,
right?
correct.
It also is a little bit different because students in grades 1 through 5 generally get a letter from their teacher about 2 weeks earlier than that. No one gets notice in June in Marlborough.
No.
We generally don't do that.
And our kindergarten team sends out a welcome letter as a team and says, one of us will be your teacher. And they give a little bit of information to the families and the students as to themselves, so that students at least know at Kane it's for kindergarten teachers. So
We also wanted to take a minute to talk about, because you mentioned the bus, so that orientation is the first time. I'm going to say it, and you'll probably all say it multiple times, but orientation is also the first day of school for students in grades 1 through 5. So generally the bus drives all the students in grades 1 through 5 to school, and then goes back on the routes and only picks up kindergarten students and their families, their parents, so that you can meet the bus driver, you can possibly exchange contact information. That's not mandatory, but a lot of the bus drivers may do that. And that is because no kindergarten student will ever be dropped off at a bus stop in the afternoon without an adult, a designated adult, not a neighbor that just is standing there, but a designated adult that's responsible for your child. If there is no adult there, your children are safe. Safety is always our first priority. The child will be brought back to the school, and there will be a principal or assistant principals waiting until you or a family member can come and pick them up.
None of us leave until all the students are
Students,
safe at
yes.
home. We do, and it's great because the bus drivers will contact their dispatch immediately and say, oh, Mrs. Mary Murphy's mom wasn't at her bus stop. Can you notify the school? Dispatch will call us immediately, and before the bus is even at school, we've already contacted the parents to inform them that there was nobody at the bus stop. Your child is being brought to the school. If you are able to come pick them up, please let us know like what time you will be here. We keep the students busy while they wait.
So if a parent does have, if a high school student's going to be at the bus stop every day, that orientation is the perfect time to have that conversation, possibly write it on a note so the bus driver has detailed information.
The bus driver and the schools
And
as
the
well.
school
it's
too,
important for
yeah.
us to know as
Yeah.
well so that we know who will be there for the student.
Perfect.
Yeah, I think a lot of paperwork gets filled out at that orientation
Yes.
day, right? Emergency contacts and
Yes.
all that information that would be necessary in the event that a student came back to school.
And the teachers typically will go over the expectations of the classroom, go over all the paperwork with the families, and then spend some time with the students while the parents complete the paperwork with a little story or activity, or sometimes both. I always had both, so I know a lot of them still do that. So.
And if my child had a medical condition or something that really need to be watched, like either a food allergy or diabetes, I believe, is it during the screening or the orientation that the parent would be able to have an opportunity to meet and review that with the nurse?
Either or even before. Our nurses are available in the schools beforehand, and sometimes that might be a little bit easier for them because on the first day of school they're also getting all the other students coming in, and if they have specific medical needs, the nurses also supporting them during screening and orientation.
And sometimes we don't think about it because we've been in Marlborough so long. But if a family is new to Marlborough, I think it's important for them to know that although more Massachusetts school systems are doing it, Marlborough always starts school before Labor Day, which means that the screening appointments are happening before Labor Day, and the orientation is happening right after Labor Day, because kindergarten starts a couple of days later. And for you to get the bus route to be on that ride, the registration process needs to be completed well before any of these late August dates.
It delays the start of the students, which we would rather not have if it's not done ahead of time.
And unlike a lot of other districts, busing is provided to all students at the elementary schools. So to be able to build those routes, the sooner we have the information. If you are registering in September, we'd love to have you. We want you anytime you're ready to come, but it will take a few more days. You cannot walk in and register and then start the next day.
Right. And some of the things that are requirements for us by law are those immunizations that Christine Harrington had talked about in an earlier episode that we had with the health. So there's a physical requirement, there's the immunizations, and unfortunately, even though the principals, always want to be able to have, their children, their students start, as soon as possible. Unfortunately, there are times when we can't start the student right when we want them to. And, I can't stress enough how important it is the sooner that we have the registrations, the better. We have had times the last several years where families have come in on the screening day or the orientation day, not having done any of the registration process, so brand new, don't have any information whatsoever. So I know you've had times when you've had a kindergarten who was thinking that day was their first day of school, and how
it's heartbreaking,
heartbreaking
turning their
it is.
little faces away to say, "I'm sorry, but you can't start today. we need everything first. And it's just heartbreaking because they're there with their big, huge backpacks and their cute little faces and their big smiles. And
Yeah.
So we covered a lot as far as how to prepare, what documents are necessary, how and where to register. Where could parents maybe find some information about this that is all neatly packaged together?
If Jody mentioned earlier that on our website, on MPS's website, there is a registration tab at the top, and then specifically there's a kindergarten registration link on there as well, and it takes you to the kindergarten information page, and there's all the information about registering for kindergarten, the age the child needs to be to begin kindergarten. There's a lovely PowerPoint, I must say so myself, on the website that lists all the documents that are needed. There's a sample kindergarten schedule on there, what your child should know and be able to do as they're entering kindergarten, and then there's our Road to Kindergarten document with all the dates of the events.
So please help us spread the word.
And if any community members are watching this, have friends that need the information in Spanish or Portuguese, it is also posted in English, Portuguese, and Spanish, so that many community members can access the information. But we did want to spend a minute as a former kindergarten teacher. The question is always, and we used to try to really give an overview of that. If we were going to highlight a few things that parents can do before kindergarten starts, or why kindergarten's important.
Kindergarten is very important because they need to attend. There's social time for them built in their day so that they can build those communication and social skills that they need, that we all need in life on a daily basis. So they are able to build some of their school routines and getting used to a full day of school, which can seem very long for some of the little guys because after lunch you tend to find them napping on the rug in their classroom because they're so tired from being busy all day. It's very important for them to be able to practice their independence with putting on their backpacks, opening their backpack, closing the backpack, putting on their shoes, their jackets, zippers for when they go to the bathroom. They use the bathroom independently, so we try and encourage the families to make sure that they're practicing buttons and zippers and all those little fine motor skills that they need in order to be able to do a lot of that.
Jody mentioned the scissors, and I think
Scissors are a big
my
thing.
son as well went to kindergarten never having to pick up scissors.
Yes, scissors are huge because as a former kindergarten teacher, that's the one thing that you spend a lot of time with, as well as teaching this. Sorry, I'm a left teacher, so I'm demonstrating with my left how to hold the scissors and how to hold the paper as they're cutting, and what to do, as well as holding a pencil or a crayon, like the proper, so that they can get the grip, so that they can get used to the writing, because they do write. We want them knowing how to write their name. First name is fine. All capitals is fine. Just as long as they're able to write their name, identify their name. They counting from 1 to 20 in the beginning of the year is like what we hope that they're able to do. And if not, it's okay. We work with them, but these are our hopes. Identifying their shapes, their colors, and
Is there the kindergarten early literacy tied in with leading into first grade?
yes, all of the academics build off of each other. So our kindergarten curriculum is the foundation for them. So what they learn in kindergarten is carried over in first grade. The programs that we use to help build those skills are used consecutively from grades K through, some of them all the way up to 5th grade. So they need, those skills are very important for them, and that's why it's very important for them to come into kindergarten and to attend every day. A lot of their learning is hands-on in kindergarten, so it's stuff that they need to be in person for them to be able to learn.
And we're also very proud in Marlborough that we focus on the whole child, and so therefore we're introducing the first concepts in music
Yes.
and art and
Physical
physical
education.
education. And we have some very passionate physical education teachers that will tell you they start teaching the skills at kindergarten, and every year they're expanding those skills. And so,
And the most
yes.
amazing thing is seeing them when they're coming into kindergarten and seeing how much they've grown by the end of 5th grade. At Kane, the current 5th grade class is my first class that I've seen from kindergarten all the way to 5th grade. That's been a long time, but we won't talk about that. But and it's just amazing seeing how they've came in as little people and now they're leaving as bigger people. and
Preteens.
just yes, yep, it's awesome. So it's great seeing that growth in that span.
Thank you.
Right.
Anything else?
Yeah, that was great. Thanks
Thank
for all
you.
the information.
Thank
Of
you.
course,
for
you're
all the
welcome.
information. So we hope you enjoyed this episode of the Superintendent's Corner. We hope that if you have a child or know a child that will be turning 5 by the end of August, you will encourage or go out and register for them in kindergarten and join our family.
Send
Thank
them
you.
our way.
Thank you.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.